you all here, and thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to come this evening and participate in this event. I can see by knowing many of the faces in here that we have a really pretty broad range of community-involved people, businesses, and entities that have been and will be active in our community, and that's good to see. I'd like to reflect just a little bit, and maybe from my perspective, and say that, you know, that the city offers our community and our businesses lots of amenities and opportunities, and when we talk to and we seek out development in all aspects, whether that's residential, commercial, or industrial, and it's like, what do we have that would attract those companies to take a good look at us? And we do have so many things to offer that, you know, it's an easy sell. But one of the things from the mayor's perspective, from the mayor's office, we get contacted from many different avenues. And they contact the mayor's office and they ask a couple questions. It's like, what kind of need do you see, Mayor, in your community that, you know, we may be able to help with? And so we give them, we talk about that, we give them some suggestions and tell them what we have, you know, what we can use. And I see in today's market that it's a competition. I mean, these developers and these investors can go anywhere in this state and have all the business they want to have. I mean, there's just this real need throughout the state for, you name it, housing and commercial and such, job creation, that they can go anywhere. So it's like, what do we have that makes us want them to come here and do business and make a development, an investment? So we court that. I see this as one of those mechanisms where we can listen to the community, get the input, and help develop ideas and plans and a vision so that when those out-of-town companies or even local companies want to expand, there's something we can show them. But not only that, it's what we're going to generate that can benefit our existing citizens and businesses that is just as exciting as attracting community. So I'm excited about being a part of this, and I think everyone here is as well. And again, I want to thank you for coming, and I am to introduce Alexander Taylor, who is the Community and Economic Development Program Manager. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. All right, so we got a full day full of fun things to go through. First of all, my name is Alexander Taylor. As he mentioned, I'm the Community and Economic Development Program Manager for OCRA. I oversee 5 different programs. We focus on infrastructure development primarily. However, I also work with our Main Street organizations. We have about 119 of those, so we are busy as a team. My director, Andrea Kern, she's over here on the OCRA table. She is our fearless leader, so thank you, Andrea, for everything you do. Our office works with Indiana communities to build relevant and economically thriving places where people want to live, work, and grow. The office also works with local, state, and national partners to provide resources and technical assistance to aid communities in shaping and achieving their vision for community and economic development. H.E.L.P is an opportunity to promote stability in Hoosier communities, making them more resilient to future economic downturns in the future. H.E.L.P melds the pillars of OCRA's Stellar Initiative program into a program that will capitalize on the success of previous efforts while addressing the current environment of Hoosier communities. This new program supports cities, towns, and counties by building capacity, creating a peer network system, developing a strategic investment plan, and providing access to set-aside funding to implement projects from that plan. H.E.L.P is a 52-week process culminating in the strategic investment plan. Throughout the program, OCRA will be engaging the expertise of the Purdue Center for Regional Development, the Indiana University Center for Rural Engagement, Ball State University's Indiana Communities Institute, and Ivy Tech Community College. They are to steer communities through the process of project identification and prioritization along 4 specific pathways, all right? These pathways were developed as key community development themes to keep the goals of HELP and the funding stream at the center of the program. These 4 pathways are advancing e-connectivity, enhancing quality of life, promoting community wellness, and strengthening local economies. We will go through all of these in a little bit. First up, we want to briefly talk about the agenda. So the agenda for today's presentation will begin with a welcome overview of the team, universities and partners, followed by a community question activity. This is going to kind of be our first group activity. It will be followed up by a progress report by the community coordinator, an explanation of the 4 pathways by the HELP program manager. We will then have an activity that will be facilitated by our university partners, followed by general discussion, next steps, and a final community engagement activity. All right? First up, we're going to meet the HELP team. With me tonight from our office and working closely with your community coordinator to facilitate the HELP program is our Northeast Community Liaison, Allie Doherty. We also have Pamela Guerrero, who is our CDBG Program and Policy Analyst, and we also have Andrea Kern, the Director of Strategic Initiatives. Our university partners are the crux of this program. They are the experts in each of the pathways that I've described thus far. With me tonight from our universities is Indiana Communities Institute, Ivy Tech Community College, the Indiana University Center for Rural Engagement, and the Purdue Center for Regional Development. These are our list of all of our partners, and many of them are here today. We have Ball State, I know, over in that corner. We have Carrie from IU over there. Julie is in the back. Evelyn's up front, so we got a full crew with us tonight. Additionally, we have a variety of partner agencies. I want to be sure to highlight the state partners for this program as well. Communities will have the opportunity to collaborate with these agencies for additional or supplemental funding as we go through this process. Our partners include all the following: the Indiana State Department of Transportation, also known as INDOT, the Indiana State Department of Health, Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority, Indiana Arts Commission, the Indiana State Department of Natural Resources, and Regional Economic Development Associations. So we got a lot of people ready to jump for funding and to help the communities. I would like to introduce Mr. Brian Blackford, Director of Program Development and Training at Indiana Communities Institute, located at Ball State University, for our next activity.
Thank you, Alex. Mr. way too formal. Makes it sound old. So, good to be here tonight. Good evening, everyone. We're going to do a little exercise just to get things going this evening, get to know each other a bit better. So I wish we had time to go around into this and everyone speak in front of the room. Some of you are relieved that's not happening. But I do want you to do this one activity, and that is you see Post-it notes in the center of your tables. So if you don't see them, raise your hand, we'll get you one. You all should take a single Post-it notes from that stack and a pen. There should be pens around the room as well. So if you need a pen, raise your hand, we'll get you one. And we want you to, first up, on that sticky note, think about Auburn in 10 years and pretend you're waking up in 10 years' time. You're grabbing your morning coffee, you're getting your newspaper off the doorstep or logging onto the website, your local newspaper, and you are reading the headlines. We want you to write what you think a headline will say in 10 years about Auburn. No other printers. Write a headline about Auburn that you think you'll read in 10 years, or that you hope to read in 10 years. And we heard from a newspaper man the other night who was at our meeting in Kosciuszko County. He said 7 words is typically a headline. I'm not going to limit you to that, but if you want to be really creative, 7 words or less. Headline 10 years down the road about Auburn. What you're going to read in the paper. Any questions? So work on that for a minute or two, and then we'll go to the next step. If you haven't started writing yet, please do so because we're going to use them in a second.
What? Oh, I gotta change it now. Yeah, when everybody came to do that too.
If 7 words is too few, you can think it's a tweet. You got 280 characters to work with. Take a 30, 40 seconds to wrap up. Okay, so step 2. This is the really fun part. You're a tight-knit community. I'm sure a lot of you already know each other in this room, so this may not quite work as we expected, but the instructions are, we want you to, in a second here, get up from your tables, walk around the room, find somebody else in this room who maybe you don't know, that'd be awesome. If that's not possible, somebody you don't know that well, that's not possible, someone you haven't seen in a while. If that's not possible, just find somebody. But let's try to work on those interactions with people maybe you don't see a lot or know that well. So let's try to push our comfort zone on this. Find somebody, introduce yourself if you don't know them. Say which part of the community you live in or something like that if you want to share that information. And then most importantly, share with them the headline you wrote. So, take a couple minutes, find somebody, get up, don't just talk to your table. All right, let's start moseying back to your tables. And feel free to spread out. There's plenty of tables in here, so if you feel a little cramped where you are, I'm sure people won't take offense if you move. There are going to be some slides that will be presented, so if your back is to the front, you may want to find a spot where it's not.
Is that what yours said?
And go ahead and find a seat.
That's not a headline on the front page. Now, let's don't go there, okay? I don't have the
Again, find your seats, and if you want to spread out a bit, feel free. There's plenty of room in here. There are going to be some slides, so you may want to face the screen. And as you're working your way towards your seats,
everywhere.
let me ask for one volunteer to read their headline. Anybody think they have the best headline ever? Anybody want to share? One person. Oh, I see. Okay, thank you. All right, brave soul.
Auburn, Indiana, the leading area for young families to start.
Good, thank you. Thank you. We have time for one more. Anybody really want to read theirs? All right. Well, now it's him first.
I mean, I like it.
City of Auburn becomes #1 in innovation.
I like it, short and sweet. Good job. So, we would really appreciate it if you could put those post-it notes in the center of your table or collect them at your table. We're not gonna know who wrote these, so that's okay, don't worry about that. We're gonna collect these, we're gonna type them up, we're gonna share them with the organizing committee and with the pathway committees moving forward as just food for thought. It's kind of a visionary exercise, right? So just something fun to look at. So thank you for passing those around and up. With that, now that we're all ready to go, I'm going to turn it back over to Alex.
All righty, thank you, Brian. So we have, the next up is the introduction of the coordinators. So it is my pleasure to introduce all of you to the community coordinator for the H.E.L.P program, Amber Hayflick. Amber is an Auburn native and a 2006 graduate of DeKalb High School. She will help lead the city of Auburn and Auburn Main Street as they work in conjunction to create legacy projects in this city. Amber has 5 years of experience in design, communication, and organization with a marketing coordinator and administrative background. She previously worked for the Messenger Company as a marketing coordinator, State Farm Insurance as a sales and marketing lead, and with the Auburn Ford Duesenberg Automobile Museum as a weekend supervisor. She is an active member of the community and has served as a soccer coach for her son's soccer team through the YMCA of DeKalb County. She resides in Auburn with her fiance Brandon and their 4 children. With no further ado, let's welcome Amber.
Welcome, everyone. Just a few housekeeping notes before we get started. Restrooms are just straight out this door. They're kind of hard to miss. To the left, if anybody has to go, feel free to get up and use them as needed. And also, thankfully I haven't heard any cell phones, but if we could just silence them through the rest of the program, that would be great. So it is our goal through the H.E.L.P program to help raise some additional monies to maximize our project effectiveness. So we are pleased to announce that in the H.E.L.P program, we have been awarded a $5,000 grant from the Indiana Arts Commission. This will help us engage the community on inclusive art features. Our Lighted Up, the Art of Illumination Forum will be held on June 23rd from 5:30 to 8 p.m. This will be at the Dilgard Event Center in downtown at the Auburn Atrium Marketplace. This is to educate and gather input regarding inclusive illumination art features for the city of Auburn, and this is our first step with the Lighted Up project. Also, our H.E.L.P core team has been hard at work connecting with community members to partake in our 4 pathway committees. Those will start after this forum and go through September, and to be on the lookout for more information in the upcoming weeks on that. So now we're going to get into the fun stuff. Okay. So we are going through this process as a community to empower our city by establishing systems for success to be resilient to the future challenges. Through this process, we have gathered data from Civic Lab, which is a nonprofit dedicated to advancing the practices of civic collaboration. The city of Auburn and DeKalb County went through some intense data training to better understand the needs and trends of our community. We looked at equity and inclusivity, paying special attention to our racial and income inequality to ensure that each person in our community thrives educationally, financially, and civically. We also looked at the Opportunity Atlas, which questions what factors predict the differences in upward mobility. Which brings us to our key takeaways. So those is our underserved population located in the low to moderate income zones being provided for? We have a high need for social assistance programs and better daycare services along with better food sources in proximity. There's a low walkability and connectivity score. Our food markets do not meet the thresholds for USDA. Our prevention indicators compared to the national average for our area did not score well. Examples are low percentages of healthcare providers, a high percentage of opioid emergencies, moderate life expectancy, high inactivity and obesity rates. But we do have our free clinic in DeKalb County, so that does help with providing healthcare to the underinsured and non-insured. We need to improve our access to amenities. We have a high percentage of community members ages 35 and up. Housing demand for all ages and demographics are needed. and our broadband is accessible throughout the Auburn area. Next, we'll be looking at our existing plans and previous plans for the city of Auburn. We have our Auburn 2040, the road ahead. This is to create a unifying vision for future growth and development. We have our DeKalb County Broadband Initiative to develop and implement a strategy to extend high-quality, affordable broadband service countywide. The City of Auburn Downtown Revitalization Plan. It is a strategy plan aimed at building on the strengths, assets, and leveraging the community's heritage by assessing the current physical and economic conditions. We have our Trail and Sidewalk Master Plan. This is a guide to direct the future growth of the City of Auburn's trails, sidewalks, and bikeways by identifying top priority trails, regional trails, and important pedestrian linkages. We have our Auburn East Central Neighborhood Study. This accesses a specific neighborhood on the east side of Auburn using livability principles established by the Partnership for Sustainable Communities to look at existing conditions, access to services, and neighborhood composition. And then lastly, we have our Parks and Recreation Master Plan. This inventories park and recreational features, determines an acceptable level of service for the community, and identifies projects that fill documented recreational needs, including park improvements. Throughout our previous community engagement activities relating to the existing plans for the City of Auburn, we have noted that the main needs and general comments from the community members include our transportation is in need for increased, improved pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure, including sidewalks and trails, to increase the efficient traffic flow. Our recreation and environment is in need of park facility improvements, provide water activities such as public pool, splash pads, and Cedar Creek kayaking, along with environmental protections, which our main example would be tree services. They would like to see more community events and expansion of our farmers market. The downtown revitalization and redevelopment, along with historic preservation. Housing to become more diverse, options such as apartment complexes and houses that are more affordable. Include diversity and inclusion to diversify the community with an increase in local restaurants, local businesses, and ADA accessible buildings that are welcome to all and with an atmosphere of progress and innovation. And then lastly, our economic development to have job creation and business attraction by developing the Auburn South Interstate Interchange with increase to retail, dining, and grocery stores within the city. And then lastly, we also asked a few questions. So those questions were, what are some of Auburn's strengths? And the responses we got back were safe, parks and recreation, rich in history, friendly community-minded people, events, festivals in our main street. The next question was, what are some of Auburn's weaknesses? We have a high electricity rate, limited transparency, the inclusivity and diversity, downtown parking, limited tourist attractions, lack of entertainment options, especially for the youth, lack of pedestrian and public transit options, housing options, downtown property maintenance, and the need for private investment. Our third question was, when you think of Auburn's future, what opportunities do you envision? That was downtown revitalization, more community events and programs, enhanced parks and recreation, amenities, walkability, population growth through quality of place investments, history and historic preservation, gateway and corridor enhancements, more community engagement and representation, and regional collaboration. We are going to continue to engage the community on these previous concerns and questions throughout the process of the Hoosier Enduring Legacy Program. We're going to hold some online surveys and paper surveys, feedback cards, project mapping. I'm going to hold another open house to recap the community forum, a social media interaction, and group activities with project voting. So as I turn it back over to Alex, I do want to give a thanks to the McKinney Harrison Elementary School for hosting our event tonight and providing the wonderful meal. I want to thank Mayor Mike Lay and the City of Auburn, Auburn Main Street for all of their support, the Oker staff for speaking on the community on the H.E.L.P Legacy Program, and the universities for educating and holding our group activities. Lastly, I do want to leave you all with one more statement, and that's let's leave our legacy on the City of Auburn. Thank you.
All right, so what we're going to do next is we are going to do a little bit of explanation. We're going to walk through what's the process for pathway committee members. We're going to walk through each of the pathways in theory and each of the pathways in applicability. What I have done is I've provided a variety of programs and projects from different cities, counties, and towns throughout the United States related to each pathway. Try to choose a very diverse group, different levels of cities, different levels of counties, as well as different projects. So, as mentioned before, HELP is a 52-week strategic planning process that ultimately is completed with a strategic investment plan. To get in that point in the process, the program emphasizes the creation of pathway committees. Pathways, in essence, are defined as themes that programs and projects are based on. The 4 pathways, as mentioned, include advancing, promoting community wellness, advancing e-connectivity, strengthening local economies, and enhancing quality of place. First, we will discuss what the process is for pathway committee members. We will then follow it up with a brief description of each pathway and then programs and projects. First, the process for the pathway committee members. First, pathway committees form. We have already gone down that road. Many of the pathway committees have formed. If you are not in a pathway committee and are interested, please see Amber and we can get you situated on one of those. Secondly, the community engagement forum occurs. That's here right now. Congratulations, we're here. Third, the community engagement methods outlined in the previous sections will commence and data will be gathered on the results and types of programs and projects the community prioritizes at large. The university partners will then begin facilitating kickoff meetings for pathways. University partners will be in communication with the community coordinator to establish those meeting times and places for the group to meet. Next, the pathway committees will physically meet. By the last meeting, those committees will have created a list of prioritized projects related to each pathway. Once those lists have been made, I will meet with the core team and the community coordinator, and I will facilitate a final prioritization list that will be utilized in the strategic investment plan. Lastly, once that list has been finalized, the community coordinator will work with our Purdue Center for Regional Development on creating the strategic investment plan. Before I start with the breakdown of each pathway, I want to briefly discuss the American Rescue Plan Act in full. I know some of you may not be familiar with the funding. The funding is provided by the United States Department of Treasury. It's referred to as the state and local fiscal recovery funds. The goal of the funding was to provide relief to Indiana citizens from the COVID-19 public health emergency and the negative economic repercussions associated with it. Funding is separated into 4 different categories. We have 1, provision of government services through revenue replacement. We have programs or projects that address public health or negative economic repercussions. The provision of premium pay to eligible workers. And lastly, the creation of water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. So we have created this program to kind of mirror that. So you'll see very similar relations with the pathways. The next section will first present the ideals and characteristics of each pathway, followed by the initiatives in the United States currently. First up is promoting community wellness. So the promoting community wellness pathway will be facilitated by the Indiana University Center for Rural Engagement. This pathway seeks to expand and improve infrastructure and initiatives related to people. Public health is important to overall community wellness. Possible initiatives include the following: the development of mental health programs and facilities, development of substance health abuse use and programs and facilities, general increased access to health care, increased capacity building by the creation of coalition networks, the development of programs and projects that address food deserts, the development of programs and projects focused on walkability, bike lanes, and public transit, family and community health projects, and lastly, child care related projects. The quote at the bottom of this page says, "Healthy citizens are the greatest asset any country can have." It's from Winston Churchill, and I think that's still applicable today. So this is where we're going to get to the fun part. So I have provided 4 samples of programs and projects that are actually being worked on right now. First, Anchorage, Alaska. Sounds a little wild because we live in Indiana. Pretty cold in Anchorage, Alaska. They have allocated $600,000 in public health, specifically mental health, for funds for school-based mental health services to continue to respond to children and youth mental health needs exacerbated by the pandemic. Secondly, Boston, Massachusetts. They have allocated about $1 million focused on substance abuse to provide services to address substance use disorder exacerbated by the pandemic, including services such as direct outreach and expansion of service hours, as well as adding harm reduction vending machines and providing sterile syringes and supplies. Fort Wayne, Indiana has allocated $375,000 for their Super Shot program. Superman. This provided needed vaccinations and shots to communities in need with an emphasis on those underutilized populations. Lastly, Maricopa County, Arizona has allocated $20 million to conduct a community needs assessment. This one's not as traditional in project and program development as the others. This assessment analyzed behavioral health and related gaps to COVID-19 to provide service and needs identified in that assessment. All right, so that's a few examples of promoting community wellness. What I will say, this is from the Brookings Institute. It is a research institution. They have put together a large-scale ARPA tracker. I can send that to the core team as well as the coordinator, but give it a Google. They have a ton of projects, pages and pages of actual real-life programs and projects, amounts allocated, etc. All right, great resource, so I recommend completely. Advancing e-connectivity. So this is going to be facilitated by the Purdue Center for Regional Development. This pathway seeks to aid communities by increasing or improving broadband development and access to services, promoting digital inclusion, and supporting businesses and organizations that focus on broadband access and technological innovation. The quote at the bottom of this page is from Sonny Perdue, the United States Secretary of Agriculture, and states, "Reliable and affordable internet e-connectivity truly is the key to productivity in the 21st century." What we have seen is that being very true with the coronavirus pandemic. We saw a lot of remote work, we saw a lot of e-learning, we saw a lot of telemedicine. So this is more into our future. Advancing e-connectivity programs and projects. The funding specifically enumerates two activities. You can build broadband infrastructure, or you can update your cybersecurity hardware or software. First, Atlantic County, New Jersey has allocated $117,000 for the modernization of its cybersecurity, all right? Secondly, Chula Vista, California allocated $300,000 in the development of broadband infrastructure, specifically intra-city broadband infrastructure. The funding will allow the city to connect sprawling city facilities to the existing fiber backbone located at their city hall. This will allow the future opportunity to provide high-speed wireless internet access to the public at each of those facilities. Next up, Madison County, Illinois has allocated approximately $100,000 to upgrade their sewer infrastructure cybersecurity by purchasing a security monitoring service to protect water and sewer infrastructure and their digital operating systems from ransomware attacks. Something we don't traditionally think of, but super relevant, super important. Lastly, Franklin County, Ohio will provide socially and economically disadvantaged seniors with devices, hotspots, and opportunities to learn and experience the digital world. All right? These are just a few examples. Like I said, check out the Brookings Institute. They have pages and pages of e-connectivity. Next up is strengthening local economies. So this is facilitated by Ivy Tech Community College. This pathway seeks to help communities grow and support robust local and regional entrepreneurship cultivation through innovative programs and capital investments. Initiatives include the development and sustainability of entrepreneurial ecosystems, economic gardening, the creation of a small business revolving loan fund or similar financial tool, business retention and expansion programs, workforce development programs, the creation of business networks among current industry and future industry, and lastly, the development of co-working space. The quote on this one is from Ban Ki-moon, former Secretary General of the United Nations, and it states, "Sustainable development is the pathway to the future we want for all. It offers a framework to generate economic growth, achieve social justice, exercise environmental stewardship, and strengthen governance. All right. Here are a few examples of types of programs and projects related to economies. First, New York City, New York allocated $20 million to their tourism and hospitality sectors. This was to create a permanent open restaurants program, a program which allows for street space to be utilized for outdoor dining, expanding the space restaurants can safely serve food, driving economic growth, and improving quality of life in New York City neighborhoods. Secondly, Nassau County, New York has allocated $1.5 million to launch the Small Business Technical Assistance and Planning Program. This program funds a variety of regional and local nonprofit and business organizations to engage in initiatives and programs providing technical assistance, training resources, and promoting activities within the area. Franklin County, Ohio created the Summer Jobs and More program, a youth workforce development program that supports juniors and seniors in targeted suburban school districts who are not on track to graduate. The proposed Student Credit Recovery Initiative will support 6 weeks of summer education and specialized college and career coaching. Lastly, Toledo, Ohio, they have allocated around $700,000 to provide services for disproportionately impacted communities through the reduction of blight in neighborhoods located in qualified census tracts. All right? Last up, promoting quality of place. So the Enhancing Quality of Place pathway will be administered and facilitated by the Indiana Communities Institute from Ball State University. The pathway focuses on improvements to the built environment and community infrastructure. Initiatives include the development of arts and culture, the development of affordable, luxury, or upper dwelling housing, the creation or upgrade to current community facilities, historic preservation, engaging youth on a consistent basis, beautification efforts such as gateways, facades, and wayfinding, and lastly, Main Street redevelopment through neighborhood revitalization efforts. The last quote I have for you is from the University of Toledo. This was a really cool explanation of quality of place. The quality of place is all of those features of a physical environment and qualities of life that make a location a desirable, competitive, and economically vibrant place to live. It includes the quality of architecture, transportation, housing, neighborhoods, and all cultural amenities, natural and outdoor, recreational assets, tourism features, public education, and healthcare. So quality of place is everything, right? It's everything you can see with your own eyes, but it's also everything culturally that's happening in your community. All right, here are a few examples of the types of projects related to enhancing quality of place. Dutchess County, New York. I have no idea where that is, to be 100% honest. They have allocated $1 million to provide grants to municipal partners to invest in purchases or make one-time facility or park improvements. Secondly, Dallas, Texas has allocated $2.25 million for violence reduction and prevention techniques, specifically treatment, counseling, and services for prevention, including near fatality prediction and intervention techniques of family violence. All right? El Paso County, Colorado has allocated $8 million for the development of clean and safe drinking water for their community. The goal will be to select projects which improve the drinking water infrastructure, upgrade drinking water facilities, and address sustainability and climate change. Lastly, Seminole County, Florida has allocated $2 million to provide passive recreation, public open spaces, and outdoor park amenities in disadvantaged populations. So this is to just give you a snapshot of what we can do with the state and local fiscal recovery funds, all right? A lot of options. The activities are pretty open and they did that on purpose. So I just wanted to be sure that I gave you a quick snapshot of what we can even do with this. With that, I'm going to go back to Brian and lead you into the next activity. Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. So tonight is in part to provide an update about some of the great research and data that's been shared with you all, the core team in particular, to date, to outline the pathway process, which is upcoming, to get you to start thinking about what those pathways are and maybe where they might take you. And also to continue the engagement process, which we saw earlier is really going well in this community and some more efforts remain. So we're going to put you to work a little bit tonight to kind of help, gather more information, because you never have enough of that, right? And secondly, to, again, get you thinking about the complexities of the pathways and where you want to go and what you might be able to do within each one of those. Now, you'll have university partners on board with you all, so whichever pathway you are a part of, if you are a part of one. If you're not, you can certainly still look into being part of one. You'll have a different university partner helping you through that process. They'll be looking at the plan reviews and the data and the engagement results and all these things to help drive the conversations towards projects that might, or programs that might pertain to each of those pathways. So for now, tonight, we're going to pass around, Beth and Julie are passing around a sheet, one per table, and we're going to ask that you ignore the right columns for now and focus on the left column. You'll know what I mean when you get it. And the left column basically just says issues or opportunities, and there are 10 rows. We want you at the table, and some of the university partners who, thank you very much, contrary to popular belief, our universities in the state do get along pretty well, and we love working with each other. So we try to set the stage there. But some of the university partners are at the tables. They can help you be the scribe, so you can just think. If you don't have a university partner at your table, designate somebody who can write well, and by well I mean we can read your writing. And then what we want you to do is take a few minutes at the table to think through this question. What are some issues facing Auburn that we could overcome or address? What are some opportunities we can pursue to make the place we call home even better than it already is? Simple as that. What are some issues to address? What are some opportunities to overcome? Single ideas, one per line. You got 10 lines, so if no one's more than that, I'm sorry. Try to narrow it down. You don't have to fill out all 10 if you don't want to, but have at it, take a few minutes, and only think about it is don't think about pathways, don't think about quality of place or local content or anything like that. Don't worry about that. Just think about any issue or opportunity you think Auburn could pursue or get better at to make the place better. Any questions? All right, have at it for a few minutes. Along with, again, the plan reviews that IU did and the Civic Labs work in data, in local engagement you're doing, so that'll all be part of this upcoming process with each pathway committee. Any questions about this or final comments before we move on? Yes?
One of the things he had was that there really is a lack of diversity in this town, and on a lot of levels, not just how we go to economic and just a lot of different things.
Sure.
Anybody else have it?
Community well-being. Anybody else have diversity challenges? Okay. Okay. All right, we'll see you perfectly filled up some the cards, so there you go. Thank you all for doing that. Again, just kind of getting us in the mindset of thinking about pathways, some of the discrete, characteristics of each of these pathways, but also how they may intertwine with one another. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Alex.
All righty. So we wanted to give you time to ask questions about any of the information we have covered thus far before we go into next steps. Any general discussion about how the process will work, the funding, anything like that, that's okay. If not, but I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to ask in the case that there was.
A lot of those examples on that website earlier, they have the outcomes associated with.
So they do not yet. Both programs and projects were just created. The funding is supposed to be spent by 2026. So then our outcomes will start being issued. A lot of those are programs and applications, so they haven't actually built yet. So funding was released last year in the first tranche. So then project development will be up until implementation. Probably 2024, the applications need to be done. 2026 is when the funding needs to be spent. Any questions?
Yes, Ann or Amber.
Okay.
Are we able to see the Civic Lab data?
Yes. We will be having that posted onto our website here shortly. We'll have links to the data book. I can get you a copy of it if you would like as well. But yeah, come do it. I do warn you, it's like 100+ pages worth of data, but lots of very good data in that Civic Lab book.
And I can't speak for exactly how each pathway will play out, but I'm guessing that there will be some discussion of that within each pathway at some point.
We will also be having a second Civic Lab virtual meeting. Anybody is welcome to attend. If you want to have a link to that Zoom meeting, just shoot me an email or a phone call and I can get you added into that. We haven't got it scheduled yet, but we will be having it scheduled here shortly.
And what's really cool about that meeting is the statistician who created the standard deviations and the probability scores of that data will be on the call, so he can walk you through the methods piece of that if you're more interested in where you got the data, how you facilitated it, etc. Anything else? All right. So next steps, and this is just for the general group, we have pathway committees will be scheduled from 6/13/2022 to 9/1/2022 with the university partners and the community coordinators, all right? They will be facilitating those meetings. The coordinator will then probably reach out to all of you, see what your availability is, set up those meetings, etc. Second, pathway committee meetings will meet and discuss projects and programs related to each pathway. This was kind of our first taste of that. This will be way more advanced when you are meeting in person. 3, pathway committee meetings will create prioritization list of projects. We're working on that model currently. It's going to be based on a variety of different factors, such as financial readiness, site readiness, etc. However, by the end of the process, you will have a full list for each pathway. Lastly, the community coordinator, myself, and the core advisory team will meet and we will create a final prioritization list for the strategic investment plan. The coordinator will then work with myself and Purdue on creating that plan, and then we will issue that plan out, introduce CDBG funding as well as the other supplemental funding. So that's kind of how this will work moving forward. We will provide updates as we create more processes, so stay tuned on that. I also want to thank the city of Auburn for, first of all, volunteering to be part of this program. It takes a lot of guts to volunteer to be a pilot because it could go a variety of different ways. I want to thank Amber for volunteering to be the community coordinator, so thank you. I also would like to thank all of our university partners, Ivy Tech, IU, Purdue, and Ball State. And we would also like to thank all of our agency partners. So that includes all the list of agencies we mentioned before. And that is all I have for you today, so thank you very much. Appreciate it.
But don't leave.
Yes.
All right, we have one more sign up for you. It'll be quick and painless. This will be fun with dots. I know you all either love or hate dots, so this is something a little bit different. You should have received by now a grouping of 4 dots, 4 sticky dots. Don't worry about their colors, but do worry about the number, the order. So what we're going to do is you see over here on the back wall, every one of the pathways listed. Community well-being, e-connectivity, local economies, and quality of place. We want you have to, by the end of this, you want to place one of your dots on each one of those things. So you should A, have no dots left, and B, you shouldn't put 2 dots on one thing. So you're going to rank them, 1, 2, 3, 4. In terms of, at this very moment, your gut check, what you personally think is a priority. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4 priority for Auburn. So you can't double up, you have to use them all, 1 through 4, 1 being the highest priority. They're all priorities, we're not saying anything about that, but this is just your kind of, if you had to rank them right now, how would you rank them, what order? And you can do that as you leave, and then you are welcome to go about your evening. So thank you. Any questions about that? All right. Be sure to do that because we're going to use this information later. So thank you all.
Did everybody get dots? Does anybody need dots? You did?